So you're talking about zoning for real estate development, for housing development.
Residential zoning, yes. Yeah, our housing is double the cost it should be. Basically, if you look at a low zoning regulation, like, say, Houston in Texas, if we had the same kind of zoning as them, our housing prices would be half what they are. That's an appalling burden on people who want to buy a house. And those who can buy a house are going to pay an extra $500,000, which is like $30,000 a year for 30 years because of this ridiculously over-regulated market. We need to lift the zoning. If anything, Labor is not as bad as the Liberals. They've made a slight attempt to change it, but they're not good enough. It's an appalling situation. We are taking money from ordinary people, from battlers, from the ordinary people, and giving it to the ultra-rich property owners, and it's just appalling.
We talked a lot during COVID. You were very vocal, as many of us were, about the longest lockdowns in the world and the crazy, ridiculous things that, they wouldn't let a Jim's mowing man go and mow a lawn on his own out in the middle of nowhere in the fresh air. What was the actual trigger, though, that made you decide to put your hand up and enter the grubby world of politics?
Because I've just come to realise how bad the situation is with zoning. I've got kids who are wanting to buy houses, and the actual extraordinary difficulty of the years. Look, one of my daughters and a partner want to go and rent a house, not a cheap rental. They wanted to rent a flat. 40 people turned up, 40 people to try and rent this very high price apartment. I actually wrote to the agent and I said, listen, I will pay a year's rent in advance in cash so my daughter can rent a place. And even that wasn't good enough. It's just a ridiculous situation. We could have ample housing at a low cost. We could have low cost rent. We could get the homeless people off the streets into resident if we just allowed the market to have its way. And no political party right now is coming to grips with this issue, which is why I've chosen Libertarians. They're the only party that has a sensible policy on this matter.
Is that a state or a federal issue, this? I mean, we've got the state government now saying they're going to build, allow medium to high-rise apartment developments along transport routes. Is that the sort of change that you are happy with?
It's the right direction. Just not going to go far enough. Look, our housing prices are like, they're at least double what they should be. Now, maybe they'll stop the rent from going out quite so much, but they're not going to, it's not good enough. It's not enough. There's really no good reason to have zoning at all. We were much better off if we simply let the market decide. Now, maybe small things like you don't put a factory in the middle of a residential zone, but most of zoning is just an incredible waste of time. It stops people building the houses they want. It stops owners from building what they want to. It stops people buying where they want, living where they want. They have to move further out. They have to have cars when they don't need cars because the council says you've got to have space for cars, even if you're next to the station. Don't mean stupid things. It's just awful, the suffering that comes in. And the only benefit you can see is that really rich people like myself get even richer. Just to give you an example, I bought 2 properties next door to each other 23 years ago, okay? They cost me just under $3 million. Now, based on inflation, they were probably worth about $5.5 million. They're worth more than $10 million. Somebody has gifted me, a multi-millionaire, with $4.5 million worth of extra assets, which frankly I don't need because I'm not selling them anyway. And it's so unfair that young people can't afford to buy a house. People can't afford to rent because of these stupid, unfair policies which screw ordinary people and only help some wealthy landowners. It's just wrong. We're a democratic country. Why don't we run it for the benefit of ordinary people instead of just looking for the elites? Whether they're the elites of the landowners, for the Liberals, or whether they're elites of the unions who want a featherbed contract and corruption and stuff like that. What about policies that actually help ordinary people have a better life?
I love your passion, Jim. Good luck with the campaign. We'll see how you go in Northcote. Jim Penman there making a hell of a lot of sense.